Hi everyone, it's the JS Living, and I am here to talk to you guys about editing and the Blood series today. Um, so in my infinite wisdom, for the second time ever, I recorded this live on the wrong page, which means I feel obligated to redo my live on the correct page. So if you're watching this, please forgive me if you already listened to this whole thing. And if you didn't, then that's great. Because you can listen this time. So I'm just going to go ahead and start off with the poll. Because I want to know what topics in regards to writing and the Blood series would you be interested in listening to. So yeah, what topics in regards and see, this is why I want to talk about editing today, is because even I am editing this sentence right now. What topics in regards to writing in the Blood series would you be most interested in watching or learning about? And so I'm going to keep this poll up until Saturday, March 7th, so that people have a chance to answer. And the live event to which this will be showing up on will be on the 14th. So do you guys want to hear about how to write character emotions, how to tell a story, or I'll just call it storytelling, character emotions, storytelling, or the third option, what, how, and when to write. So those are the three options, and like I said, I will keep this poll open until after until March 7th. That way you guys will have time. So this live will not be nearly as long as the other one because I now know exactly what it is I want to talk about. So yay for that. But I do want to have my music going because this is the playlist that I came up with for book one. Now, granted, I came up with this playlist after I wrote it, but I still think it's a pretty good playlist. And so, like, music is one of the things that I use in order to edit. So that'd be important to play music for this. Also, it's not my favorite copy of it, but I do like having a physical copy of my novella to show you guys. The other copies are much smaller. I loaned one out and never got it back, but that's okay. I'm hoping that the person I loaned it to is really enjoying it. Anyways, if you're interested, the first book of the Blood Quest, it looks like this. So this is the cover. The Blood Quest, the Blood Book 1 by J.S. Living. And you will notice if you look at the ebook covers, which I'm not going to do the screen sharing on the computer, but I think that you guys should still totes see it, so I'm going to find it on my phone. And there will probably be a glare because things from the phone never look as good, but I want to show you guys the ebook cover as well. So you may or may not have seen this already by clicking on the page. But if you haven't seen it, this is, oh, sorry, wrong book cover. But I'll just show you both. Okay. Not that, though. Here we go. All right. So, okay. So this is what the physical cover of the book looks like right now. And this is pretty much the same cover. It's just a different font. and you can't see as much. So you'll don't mind the taps of things and start editing at the bottom there. My husband is the owner of Media Smith Productions, so he takes the pictures for my book cover, and then I add the text and whatnot to make them look nice. So anyways, yeah, so that's how I get my book covers. That's also part of the editing process, but we can talk about that later. As you know, the Blood Quest, every journey begins with blood, is the quote for this one. The Blood Queen, unfortunately, will not be in a physical copy. It'll only be on ebook. And it's available right now for purchase if you guys are interested. And the theme for that one is that sometimes the price of blood is a little too high, or something to that effect. Yeah. Again, you guys can pick this up later, but I just love that I have a physical copy of my novella. Yeah, this is actually my husband's copy. It's like my copy. Like I said, my copy was on loan. Anyways, I like this song a lot. You'll be able to tell that. Okay, so I'm 6 minutes in. I don't have any viewers, which is fine, because I literally just did the spiel. So the viewers I would have had have probably already heard it. Editing. Let me turn this down some. Not sure how well you guys can hear me with the music, seeing as my last experience didn't go so well. I'm just going to turn it down a little bit. All right, so editing is actually a really important thing. It's an important part of the writing process, and I think that it would be remiss of me to not tell you how important that process is. Yes, my cup has some man. Sorry, I get thirsty when I talk. Isn't he cute? This mug came from like the Barnum and Bailey circus, like way before I knew anything about like the elephants or whatever. But it's like one of my favorite childhood memories. So keep this cup and drink out of it. It's just water though. Anyways, so editing is like one of the most important parts of the writing process. You cannot have a book and not edit it. Or rather, what I should say is that you can have a book without editing it, but is it going to be a good book? Probably not. If you are editing, if you're publishing a book of some sort, you should edit that. But more on that later. So what I want to tell you about editing is really simple. I only have like 3 things, maybe like 3.5 to tell you about editing. So the first thing that I want to tell you about editing is that you want to edit as many times as you can edit by yourself. So, and I mean like that's like the whole overall plot, appearances, grammar, syntax, mechanics, all that good stuff. You want to edit your book as well as you can, as many times as you need to before publishing. And that's definitely, yeah, I feel like that's definitely the most important thing. And so when you do that, after you've edited it to the best of your ability, whether that's 5, 10, 15, 50, 100 times, send it to a beta reader, please. Have another pair of eyes, fresh eyes, look at that work for you so that they can help you point out inconsistencies and issues. I have at least 2 people who do that for me. I have other people who don't do it in as much detail. And if you can find a beta reader, that's even better, like someone who will read that whole project from start to finish and not just one simple section. That's like the best, because then you and that person can like swap works and it can be like a tit for tat. Or if it's a friend who just wants to read it for funsies and just to give you feedback, like that's always great too. But always have some sort of beta reader. If you're doing content for like if you're doing content for like a purpose, like if it serves some type of purpose for some type of movement, or if you're writing from like a perspective that's not your own, or a perspective that you can't relate to, it's always good to have beta readers who can relate to that, especially now that publishing is moving into this big phase of like they want minority authors, they want authors to discuss like sexuality in different ways and whatnot. They want like essentially diverse people now. And so since they want diverse people and diverse works, I just think it's always good to have like one beta reader on your team who fits into that group of people in your target audience. So like your whole beta reader group doesn't have to be that, but it's nice if you can have one. And that's not even saying that you have to have one, but just that like it's better if you do. So always edit, and edit as many times as you can by yourself until you feel comfortable with it, and then send it to a beta reader for that precious feedback with fresh eyes. That is the first and foremost part of editing, and I feel like it's super important. The second thing for editing, I feel, oh, I'm taking up some water. I wish this would tell me who's viewing. That's okay though. The second important thing for editing, I feel like, is that you have to break it up into sections. You shouldn't, I was going to say you cannot, but I shouldn't say you can't, because you can. It is my opinion that you should break up what it is you're editing. And so what do I mean by that? So I mean that you should like do your content, and then you should do your grammar, and it should all be separate. So like for content, like one day you might want to do like your plot, you know, to make sure that there's no inconsistencies. So like for the blood quest, for the first book, I had some inconsistencies in the plot. There were like fights and stuff, and in like once the characters fought, like they kind of just stopped, and there was no transition between it. You always want to make sure that you have some type of transition so that your reader knows how you went from this thing over here to that thing over there. Makes no sense if you're 1 minute your character's like sitting at the computer typing at the desk, and the next minute they're like across the country somewhere else. Like unless you explain, you know, oh, and then they teleported or something to that effect, like it doesn't make sense. Other continuity errors are simple ones, like you might have them in the state of Georgia, and then or from Georgia, but then in a later chapter, like you say they're from Virginia. That's a continuity error. Are they from Georgia or are they from Virginia? The reader doesn't know because you said both, unless they're from both and you've explained that earlier. But the point is, or you know, they're from one and then they're lying later. It's the only way that makes sense. But otherwise, like, keep the continuity consistent. Make sure it all flows, ebbs, and makes sense. And I say that because I've literally done that before. Like, I've had a scene where 1 minute my character like has blonde hair, and then the next minute she's got like black hair, and it's like, wait, that's inconsistent. So that's one of the things, you know, plot wise and appearance wise, that you should probably edit for. Speaking of which, like appearances, that's another thing, like making sure that like who your character is consistent, because you don't want a character that kind of like bounces all over the place, unless again that is the specific point of your work. So when I say these things about like content and whatnot, it all comes with a grain of salt. You want to make sure that everything is, essentially you want to make sure that everything makes sense for the story that you are writing. So if there's no teleporting in your story, you don't need to have a character come like move from one country to another without explaining that. But if you have a character that's teleporting, obviously, you know, it might already be in the narrative that that's just how they travel. So just keep that in mind when you're writing. All the editing rules come with a grain of salt. But essentially the thing is, break up the editing. So you might edit for plot in one part, and then, or content rather. So you might do like, okay, today I'm going to focus on plot, and then the next day I'm going to focus on character appearance, And then this day over here, I'm going to focus on, whatever else you need to focus on for there. You can also break it up by chapter. So maybe you don't want to split it up between like content and grammar. Maybe you want to split it up from chapter. That's fine too. The point is, when it comes to editing, break it up so that it's not monotonous and so that it doesn't drive you crazy. If you want to edit chapter 1 and then go and edit chapter 25, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. Just to kind of like break it up. It's encouraged. But what I would not do is sit down and have something like this, which this is pretty short, but still I wouldn't take this and like, okay, let me just edit this whole thing because I can do that. You probably don't have time to do that. And as for the grammar and stuff, like breaking up the grammar, I feel like grammar is very important to edit because a lot of times we write the way that we speak, and that's not necessarily the correct thing to do. It's not necessarily wrong. It really depends on who your audience is and what you're editing. But I would say that like for instance, if you have a character who's from the country, or you have a character who's from the South, or someplace with a dialect or an accent, and you're trying to write that dialect or accent, like keep it consistent. Make sure that the character who speaks that way does it throughout the work. So like for this book, for the Blood Quest, Elizabeth Bathory Tepish, EBT, she's from the UK, but she's also like spent a lot of time in the US. So for the most part, she speaks proper English, but sometimes she slips into like everyday colloquialisms. So sometimes instead of saying it is, she'll say it's, and that's okay because that's established early on in the narrative that she spent a lot of time in the UK. Whereas in the second book, The Blood Queen, she's kind of like a different person. So I mean, she still speaks properly for some of it, but then you'll see later on that the language switches, and it does that because that is the character becoming a different type of person, and so it's reflective of the character. So when you're making a change like that, it's okay to not keep it consistent, but you have to make it clear that something to that effect is happening. So yeah, dialects and accents can be difficult to write. But you can do it. And so when you're editing, just make sure that you're keeping that consistent. The other thing about grammar and editing is making sure that when you're editing for grammar, you're making sure that you have the proper punctuation. If you read a sentence and you can't take a breath of fresh air, or if you're reading it and you run out of breath, it's probably too long. You probably need to like chop it up, break it up, turn it into something else. And I asked this question earlier. I don't know if people use semicolons when writing in novels. Like I should really go and take a look at that for novels and novellas. So I don't think I've seen it, but it might have been done. Anyways, you need to write you need to check the grammar and make sure that it fits the style of writing for your genre. So if your genre is children's books, then I expect to see a lot of simple sentences like the cat ran up the tree, the cat blah blah blah, as opposed to like more sophisticated and adult novels and novellas and books and things that are going to have more complex sentences. And the other thing about editing for grammar is please don't have like just a string of the same type of sentences. It gets monotonous and boring, and nobody wants to read that. I mean, I'm just being honest. Nobody wants to read that. Not a soul. So just don't do it. So yeah, those are my two things. Like edit to the best of your ability, and then give it to someone else, and then break up your content when you're editing. And then I'm taking a sip of this water. The third thing, which I keep having trouble remembering, I don't know why. The third thing that I want to say about editing is that, you have to, I don't say you have to be in the mood for it, but you should you should do it in a comfortable environment. That's what I want to say. So not be in the mood for editing, but you need to set the mood for editing. So like me, you hear this music going on in the background. I like to edit with music. That's just how I like to do my edits. So I like to play music, or sometimes I like to turn on Netflix and listen to something that is ridiculous in the background, something that I don't like I think sometimes it's like Diablero on Netflix, or Diablero. I don't know how to say it. I think normally the word's like Diablo, but I don't know how to pronounce the show's name. Anyways, like that show, I don't like it. I just put it on for background noise. And then I use that to do my editing. I know some people like to play like classical music because it has no lyrics, so they don't get distracted by like singing and dancing along. Me personally, I like a mix. So sometimes I listen to like pentatonics, and other times I will listen to like Carol and Tuesday, and sometimes it's like, Post Malone or somebody else. And so sometimes I have lyrics and sometimes I don't, but that's my comfortable writing environment. I also have to specifically be sitting at a desk in order to edit things, because if I'm not sitting at a desk, I get distracted. I was listening to this song earlier. Doesn't this song sound like Wear the Crown by Billie Eilish? Like, listen to this. Like, that really, to me, sounds like, well, not this. This is an ad. But once I skip the ad, that song. See? Listen. Like, those songs sound so similar to me. Anyways, that's distracting. That's not what I up here to talk about. But anyways, I just feel like these songs were written by the same person. Maybe not even the same person, but maybe the same instrumentalist. Anyways, they sound like to me. So yeah, music is my comfort space. I like working at a desk because I'm more focused that way. And if I can, I like to have a hard copy printout. So actually, I'm going to run and show you guys. Oh, no, I can't. It's at my office, at my new job. Anyways, I have like this big binder for another project I'm working on that has like my hard copy of the work. And then I go through and I like edit everything that way. Like I said, sometimes I do like the content and then I'll work on grammar, or sometimes I just do it like chapter by chapter to make sure that it's, as good as it can be. So those are like my 3 tips for editing. Edit to the best of your ability and get a beta reader. Edit in sections, so chapter by chapter, or content, or specific content areas like plot, appearance, etc. And then do grammar. And then step 3, make sure that wherever you're editing at is comfortable for you. So if comfort for you is sitting on the back of a farm truck with pigs and cows running around, then that's fine. That is your happy place to do your editing. You should do that. So yeah, those are my things. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Let me know like what topics in regards to the writing and blood series you would be most interested in watching on a Facebook Live. And then the other thing, and I'll give you guys 4 options for this. The other question that I wanted to ask is, what time are you most likely to watch a Facebook Live on a Saturday? That'll also help me kind of like figure out what kind of content I should be posting, when I should post it. So I would say, like, do you want to do like mornings between, not 8 a.m. because I'm not getting up that early. I don't know anybody who wants to get up at 8 a.m. in the morning. I'm willing to try like 9. So like, do you want like 9 to 11:30 a.m.? which would be like morning, or would you rather do like afternoon, which for me, I feel like that's like 12 p.m. to 3:30-ish. I think that's afternoon, or evening, which I feel like is like 4 p.m. to at the latest 9 p.m. I don't think evening goes much later than that. Or do you just not at all because it's Saturday? Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, so that'll be my second poll. So if you guys could answer that one as well. I'm going to leave both of these polls up until March 14th. Until March 7th. So that on March 14th, I can kind of incorporate that. I wanted to do these on Wednesdays, but I have 2 jobs. Again, you guys know I'm like a workaholic. So yeah, it'll be every Saturday. Saturday is the one day that I know I can get off. I guess technically I could do Friday evenings, but who wants to sit down and watch a Facebook Live on a Friday evening? I mean, maybe you guys do. I don't know. Maybe I should put a poll about best. Who knows? See, I pretty much cut my last video time in half already. So there's no one watching this, and so I don't feel like I need to stay up here and wait for questions or anything. So last bit of housekeeping notes. Again, the Blood Quest and the Blood Queen are both available on several platforms. You guys can purchase the Blood Queen, which is the second book in the Blood series, from Barnes & Noble, Rakuten Kobo, Apple Books, Scrib, Tolino, 21st Symbols, Overdrive, Biblioteca, and or Baker and Taylor. If you wanted to go back and to where it all begins and get the Blood Quest comes in a physical copy. This is the large print. There's also a small print, which I need to get another copy of because I don't have my small print copy anymore. But anyways, you can get the physical copies from Amazon or the ebook from Amazon. But you can also purchase the ebook from Baker and Taylor, Overdrive, Tolina, Scribd, Apple Books, Rakuten Kobo, and Barnes & Noble. And let me tell you, Barnes & Noble is like my favorite place to go and get my books from. But I'm going to be honest, I don't get my ebooks from them. But my physical books definitely come from them. And one day, the physical book will be in Barnes & Noble. So keep an eye out for that. The Bloodlands, I'm currently writing. I should be finished with that hopefully by May. So hopefully you'll have a published date of May for the Bloodlands. And by the end of this year, all 5 of the ebooks will be out. And so my plan for next year is to start over with Anton's story, or Farak Nadasti. And while I'm writing his story, I want you guys to think about if you'd be interested in helping me with a Kickstarter, because I want to bring all of these books to print and have them on Ingram Spark so that they can be published and distributed to multiple bookstores. But I can't do that without help. So if you guys are interested in helping me out with this Kickstarter, I'm just going to start talking about it now so that by the time next year rolls around, maybe next year in March, I can roll out the Kickstarter and we can have all these great prices and things. So when it's ready, you guys can get your merch and stuff, which I do plan on merch. It's just going to be a little while. I have some artists lined up to do some work for the books. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know. So I think that's really it. That's all I wanted to discuss was editing. So just next, the polls will be up until the 7th, and March 14th will be the next posting. So just remember to answer what topics in regards to writing the Blood series would you most be interested in watching or learning about, and what time are you most likely to watch a Facebook Live on a Saturday. Check out my website, thejsliving.com, where you can read free chapters of the Blood Quest. They're free. You just have to subscribe. or you could pay $1 and get an extra chapter every month. I believe right now I am on chapter 3 for the $1 patron members and chapter 2 for the free members. So there's 2 free chapters and a prologue up there for you right now. Or there will be tomorrow. Matter of fact, let me see real quick. I can tell you actually. Log in with Google and log in with my own account. Oops, let me fix that. So yeah, we're about to hit March. So in March there will be it'll be a prologue and the first 2 chapters for the free patron members. And then a prologue and chapters 1 through 3 for the $1 members. Prologue and chapter 1 for free, and prologue chapters 1 and 2 for paid on the $1 tier. There's other tiers, but I've already been through those. I'm not going through those again. So yeah, check out my website for the Blood Quest playlist and to read free chapters of my book. And yeah, don't forget to answer these polls. They're really important to me. And I've said it like a million times, but I feel like sometimes repetition is like mind control. It's hypnotic. You're more likely to do it. Yeah, that's it. I am logging off now. So you guys have a wonderful evening. I'm hoping I'm able to download this post after because I haven't done it on a computer yet. So hopefully I can download this and you'll see it on YouTube. Thanks so much, those of you who popped in and popped out. And those of you who didn't, who watched this later, thanks for watching later. All right, bye.